Hello and welcome to another edition of the Royally Rich Lifestyle Show with me, Ian Pelham Turner.
And me, Helena Chard.
Well, it's going to be a very cold week this week, over the next couple of weeks. And today we thought we might be snowed in. So we're actually calling from our home studios today. But first of all, Helena, you've got some royal news for us.
I've got royal news. I have, Ian. So I think beginning with, we were so pleased to see the Princess of Wales yesterday, looking absolutely radiant. So the Princess of Wales, Prince William, they greeted the Qatari royals yesterday. They travelled with them down horse guards parades, official ceremony before reaching Buckingham Palace to lunch alongside King Charles and Queen Camilla. It was lovely to see also that William was very affectionate, I think, with Catherine. I think that was really great to see. And obviously she missed, I think, the Japanese tour last time, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. So it was good to see her out. That was her first big sort of state visit that she was part of. And so I think moving on as well, I just had jewellery and everything, but I know we don't have as much time to talk about all the clothes, but also Queen Camilla, the latest health update for her. I think she's been so brave, and in fact, they all have been incredibly brave. So she revealed to guests that she's just recovering from pneumonia. So it was very, very serious. And she's battling post-viral fatigue, which if anyone's had it is really, really tiring. So it's floored her. So she's missed lots of the outdoor activities, etc. But obviously wanted to be part of the Qatari visit and has done so much work. So really do applaud her for that. And seeing King Charles and Queen Camilla as well, they really did wow at the state banquet, which was a huge, huge success. That obviously the Qatari royals were absolutely, blown away as well. And I think Camilla was in that wonderful floor-length red dress by Fiona Clare. And King Charles, he spoke in Arabic. He never lets the side down. He sort of talked about the historic ties between Qatar and the UK and delivered this great speech and addressed the 150 guests. And I think the funny thing was seeing Posh and Becks, so seeing David Beckham, Victoria Beckham. They were guests. So obviously everyone is absolutely convinced that the football legend, that is David Beckham, is set for a knighthood. And I know that he would be absolutely thrilled. They walk sort of hand in hand through Buckingham Palace. And I think that they've got Qatari connections, haven't they? I think David Beckham was ambassador for the Qatar World Cup in 2022. A lot of controversy there. But nevertheless, it all went off well. And he was sat next to Kemi Badenoch. So I think it must have been, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall there. And obviously it's a wonderful, lavish 3-course meal and absolutely fabulous. Any thoughts, Ian, on the royals and the banquet?
Well, I'm pleased. I mean, we've seen how long it takes to actually put a banquet together because I think it was it 2020 or 2022? They did a live 7-day video, didn't they, showing how to put a banquet together. It takes 7 days and huge planning. And at the end of it, we always remember that the Queen, when she was alive, used to look at the head of the table and actually make sure that everything was in line all the way down the table as well. So there's a lot of pomp and ceremony during these visits anyway, but the pièce de résistance is the banquet itself. And I can imagine the guests are very, very honoured to be part of it. And I should think the Beckhams, as you rightly say, I think David Beckham deserves a knighthood now. I mean, he's been a superb ambassador for Britain. I know Prince William is a close friend of his as well, as is Prince Harry in reality. And I think the reality at the moment is that right now, I think, the opportunities to build relationships with Qatar is very, very important from a business point of view in the future.
Absolutely. Trade deals, so important. But they all had a fabulous 3-course meal. Cornish lobster and quail's eggs, organic salad leaves, and I think, other bits and pieces too, and a sort of organic Samoan vanilla ice cream with Balmoral plum sorbet. So very, very delicious. Anyway, but another interesting thing as well is Prince William was at the Tusk Conservation Awards, and he was there joking away, and he was talking about his youngest, so Prince Louis, learning the drums, and saying he's spending his entire life with his fingers in his ears because it is so incredibly loud. And he was actually sharing this with Dire Straits' Mark Knopfler, and also he's 75 now, I think, and Rolling Stones guitarist Ronnie Wood. And he was talking about how music's such an important part of his life, all the different genres, and part of the family as well. So they were talking about maybe they'd all start a band or something. But you can well imagine. I can imagine him becoming famous, can't you? Can't you?
Who on earth gave him Louis a drum kit?
A very good outlet. We hear he's got a lot of energy, so I'm sure he spends a lot of time bashing the drums, which is and
they're probably very sort of put into the furthest corner of the furthest part of the house, no doubt.
Earplugs are the way forward, I think.
Oh, for goodness sakes! What the Royals going to do next? I'm never, Perhaps William's going to take up the trumpet and goodness knows.
Enjoy it,
well, obviously, Kate already plays the piano, so I can see this. Perhaps they're going to do a musical rendition this Christmas. That's going to be the Christmas message this Christmas. Who knows?
Not quite this year, maybe next. Watch this space. I think as well, talking about Princess Beatrice and Eugenie, they are spending a lot of time with their father at the moment, Prince Andrew, and I think their family as a whole are a very tight-knit family, aren't they? And Sarah Ferguson has been talking about the grandchildren and how I think the grandchildren have been sort of really lit up Prince Andrew's life. He's sort of got purpose now, and you've seen him helping one of the grandchildren, she's three, to learning how to horse ride. And of course, the late Queen Elizabeth learned as well at 3 years old. So I think that's probably very special to him. And I know Sarah Ferguson, she's always releasing things on social media, and recently was pictures of Princess Eugenie, her and the grandchildren at a fair. And it's a really lovely thing to see them walking around the fairground, etc. And I think as well, talking about how magical it is to have the children in their lives, but I think how important it is as well that I think in a way, with Prince Andrew, he spent the last 5 years, I think, it's his own fault in a way, but he's been locked away, as we know, in the house, in the grand house at Royal Lodge. So now he's got something to do. He's got purpose.
It sounds like the Count of Monte Cristo. They didn't put a mask on him as well. He hasn't been chained to...
Quite possibly. I think he's changed himself, I think, into his room. But I mean, also as well, just to talk about Sarah Ferguson, because she's always doing so much. And at the moment, she's also backing a breast cancer charity. And it's to do with new imaging, it's to do with mammograms, etc. So good for her. It's called, Patron of Prevent Breast Cancer. And this is to train lots of people in a hospital in Manchester. So that's all really good. And just as a little tiny thing. So where do the flowers go after big royal events, like the banquets?
They go to the hospitals, don't they?
They do it in one sense. So it's Queen Camilla's a patron of floral angels. I think they're based in Covent Garden. Okay. So it's put in this great big vase, and it looks absolutely stunning. And then obviously it's delivered to hospitals, elderly care homes, shelters, and other deserving beneficiaries of the local community. So it's always good to know that things don't go to waste. I mean, Absolutely. There is so much going on, but I think that we can finish there, I think.
Okay. Well, now we're going to move on to the middle part of the show, which is really all about news events and things that are happening over the next few days as well. And tomorrow, Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, is going to launch not what's called a reboot. It's just, in his terms, it's an affirmation of the 5 pledges that he wants to actually make to Britain, and putting some timelines on them at the same time. And they're very interesting, and I'll go through them in a minute. But the first thing is that there was nothing actually put in a timeline about the reduction in immigration, illegal immigration. So everybody's wondering whether they're trying to sweep that under the carpet. And the reality for this happening in the first place is that the past few months, Keir Starmer's personal ratings has plummeted terribly. And it's thought that even Labour politicians are wondering if he's the right man for the job half the time. And there's mutterings at the moment that perhaps communication systems are not going to happen, or not being very well received. They've changed their management team around quite a bit. And so tomorrow is really, a lot of people are sort of saying it's the new relaunch of the Labour Party and their principles, what they're wanting to do. And just reading from my notes, the idea is that, as I said, there's 5 pledges. So the first pledge is to kickstart the economic growth. Well, good luck to that. Make Britain a cleaner energy superpower. Well, good luck to that. Take back streets. Halving serious crime. Now, that is a very interesting one to go for, and a lot of it will sort of depend upon how much money is given to the police and so forth. Breaking down barriers was an interesting one, down to opportunities to reform childcare and education systems so that there was no glass ceilings for anybody in this country. Well, that's very much a socialist pledge anyway, and probably an easier one to put together. Another one from Wes Streeting, who is the Minister for NHS and for medical issues, is to build an NHS fit for the future. And again, it may be that at the moment they're trying to work out how they're going to do it, because first of all, during the elections, it was thought they were going to try and do most of it in the first term. Now, apparently, they're talking about it over a 10-year term. So they're hoping to sort of have 10 years to actually do this. And I think, the reality at the moment with all of this is that, and it'll be interesting to, what your views are, Helena, because, for me right now, and obviously, I do political work as well, I'm very disappointed in the way that the government has handled issues. And what do you think, Helena?
Well, I mean, the ridiculous thing is, one, I do think Sir Keir Starmer needs training. He really does need training. He's not come over well at all, which I find surprising considering his previous positions. It's something like there's no plan, and everything seems to be. I mean, we know the state of the world. It has been, and it still will be for a while. But where's the planning? It's crumbling around us. I just feel the lack of empathy with certain things that they decided to go for. I mean, it's not going to work, and it's not a good look, is it, when you start taking away the from the pensioners? What's it called? The
winter fuel allowance. Can you not see it written across my forehead?
Yeah, I can feel your rage, Ian. I really can. Cutting
this colour.
It's nonsense. I mean, this is silly. I mean, it's just a sort of, and it's a blanket thing that they've done to everyone, and it's really awful, because obviously this is sort of one of the most vulnerable sections of our society. So why do that? I think everyone's completely disappointed, and there's just been so much, I don't know, upset with people in the party and people with criminal records that are having to sort of suddenly dash out. It's just not a good look. I mean, this could almost be like a show on its own, I think, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think, and I think, from really a political standpoint, they're trying to spin this as, no, this is not a reboot. This is not us trying to get back on track again. This is just a confirmation of what we were going to be doing for the past few months. And quite honestly, if they think Britain believes that, then more fool the Labour government. So moving on, a very good thing for people like myself, over 60s, are now going to be given on a Tuesday in Iceland stores right across Britain a 10% discount. And all we have to do is produce our bus pass. Thank goodness I've got one, or some form of identity to actually show that we are over 60 and are deserving of this thing. And there's going to be a 10% reduction in all food items. So I think good on Iceland, first of all. I think that's incredible, the thing to be able to do it. And, you know, people like myself and, you know, people of my age in this area especially, where there's a lot of very more elderly people, elderly more than myself even, then to actually be able to sort of get something back, you know, for the chaos that this government has created is nothing short of miraculous. What do you think, Helena?
I'm just thinking to myself now that everyone's having to do things because the winter fuel allowance has stopped and been brought back to that. So now shops are offering discounts, which is brilliant. I mean, obviously, it gives people a boost, doesn't it? Everyone wants their money to go further. So I'm so pleased. That's great. And I think you'll probably find that lots of shops go down that route. But I really hope so. I know as well, I've heard that it's only in certain parts of the country, but free air fryers and slow cookers are actually being given to pensioners in North Lincolnshire. And that's to reduce energy costs, again, because of the winter fuel allowance being stopped. And they're also being taught how to use these air fryers and slow cookers and also been given £200 to help towards everything. But this has come out of it's come out of an allowance. I'm not too sure, but it's got a name. I can't remember the name of it now. But I mean, it needs to be rolled out, doesn't it? It needs to be rolled out everywhere.
I think the name is probably the slush fund produced by the government now in trying to cover up the sins of the fathers.
Yeah, the cover-up fund.
It's very interesting because I've been recipient for 2 letters recently from the government. One saying I might be, able to attach new funding to my pension. Then when we looked at it, no, I can't. And then a second one where I might be able to get an extra payment towards the thing. It's called bribes. That's what it's called, Sir Keir Starmer. Don't be sort of calm about it. Obviously, they've made a major mistake. And now, not only are the old age pensioners arguing about it, the farmers are as well. And the farmers recently had a major demonstration outside Parliament at the same time. And so the farmers are furious and are saying that they may reduce the amount of crops in stores just to show how important they are. What do you think?
Well, I get it. I think this is down to the changes in inheritance tax, isn't it, for farmers, which was announced in the budget. And as you say, they descended on Whitehall earlier in the month. And I mean, there's so many different portions of society that are mad with everything, and everyone, I suppose, thought that a new change of government would be a refresh, and wants to look at it in the best possible light. But now, I mean, you remember the guy that petitioned for a new government, and of course that's true because everyone wants Sir Keir Starmer out. I think this is what's happened. And again, there seems to be no plan in the government, and we do advise Sir Keir Starmer to get some media training and more training actually, and to deliver election promises and knuckle down. Absolutely. And do us proud.
The cold blast of the future is coming right before us as well, because our last segment today from the news angle is that we're expecting a major cold blast over the next couple of weeks. One of the reasons why we are doing it from our home studios today is that we were told that there may be an icy blast with snow showers over the next few days, actually in London itself. And so we're all expecting now to be in our winter woolies, hence this, and to try and keep warm at the same time. And actually, this is my fear now, because if we do have a very bad winter, a lot of people like myself are okay. We can actually struggle through it. We're not perfect, but we can struggle through. But there's a lot of people older than myself who are very afraid that of the cold this year. And it may turn into eat or heat is the situation as well. And so I think again and again and again, I think Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, really needs to rethink all of this, because it's crazy, absolutely crazy. So that's the end of our news items. We're just going to take a short break, and then we're going to bring on our colleague and great friend, Philip Sykes from the British School of Excellence, to talk about some of the issues that we've just mentioned. Stay tuned. So welcome back again, and now we have our great friend Philip Sykes from the British School of Excellence. Philip, good afternoon.
It is a pleasure to see you, and a good day to all of you and all our listeners and viewers out there. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you again.
Excellent. Well, Philip, as we know, tomorrow the British government under Sir Keir Starmer he is saying this is just an affirmation of all the things they've been doing for the past few months. All the political commentators like myself have been saying this is a reboot to try and catch up with what has not been happening and all the mistakes that have been made as well. But I'll just quickly go through the 5 issues they're going to talk about. They're talking about starting the economic growth, making Britain a clean energy superpower, take back the streets, halving serious crime, breaking down barriers so that everybody has the opportunities of education in the system and childcare, and finally building an NHS fit for purpose. So if you were really in power right now, and obviously you're an expert on branding as well, what would you be telling this government to do?
To think things through very clearly and practically and realistically. Because with all due respect, let's just take the scenario of breaking down barriers when it comes to education and wanting to add VAT onto the school fees. Now, that doesn't make sense to 90% of the people when you talk to them about it, because most people, and I can speak from experience of working very hard as 2 couples to put their children through the best education they could possibly afford. Now to then sting them with VAT is going to break the system, because what will happen, it'll pull people out of schools, but where will they go? So this is going to cause overcrowding in schools. This is going to cause displacement across the country when it comes to education. So there's no harm in life in retracing your steps and relaunching something that maybe didn't come across and make sense in the beginning. And a lot of things are often said so one can get into power, and then they retrace, and then they start to fumble, and they start to trip up or trip over themselves. So when it comes to those sort of things, Ian, I think more thought needs to be put into these scenarios, and not only more thought, but to actually go to ground and speak to the people on the street. Because as you are both aware, and it just takes us to walk around London to see what is going on out there, there is a lot of poverty. There is a situation where people are mentally breaking down because they're struggling so badly. And that's just scratching the tip of the iceberg. And I hope that comes across as making some sense.
Absolutely. Helena.
Just listening to Sir Keir talking, and I think it's something that you need to put in place for businesses, for everything, but it's important to work on measurable milestones. So you plan things, you action them, you can see it, you're accountable, and you deliver it. And there doesn't seem to be a plan at the moment.
Absolutely.
To measure small change and working towards something will keep everyone happy.
Yeah, that's such a great point. It is. There doesn't seem to be a direction. Yes, it's great to talk about economics, great to talk about energy, it's great to talk about crime. That's all hot air until you actually start to see action. And within the UK, it's a country that has always been a force to be reckoned with. And right now, it's looking very fragile at the moment. If you look at what's happening in the UK, how many people in the upper echelon of society financially and businesses that are leaving the UK because they are petrified of where this is going. So for the current government, it doesn't matter which party you support, and which government is in power at the moment is obviously the Labour Party. They need to acknowledge the past challenges. They need to absolutely listen, and with both ears, and listen actively and attentively, not just lip service and hear a noise. And they need to start understanding the power behind small businesses and what small businesses can do for the economy, for the country, and how it can absolutely help us start stabilizing the United Kingdom in so many aspects. So, for example, how many shops in the UK have closed down over the last 10 years, for example? Business rates are too high. Parking authorities are hitting you every step of the way for a mispayment. So in other words, start to reduce those costs that will allow people who want to go out there and shop and have the experience and spend money to want to be able to do that without knowing that they could land up actually being stung because either the parking's too expensive, or if they don't pay for parking, or they miss their minutes before they have to reignite their app to pay for more parking, they will get a penalty and a fine. So it starts at grassroots, and the rebranding of this government starts by really taking to the streets and listening to what everyone across the board is saying, and then to be able to put their money where their mouth is, to be honest and authentic. We've seen so many times over-promising. We've got to stay true to the core values.
I totally agree with that, Philip. And strange enough, one of the stories that we were talking about today is that Iceland, the store Iceland, is now reducing to pensioners on a Tuesday all their food by 10% in an effort to actually try and help them through this winter period itself, which is a tremendous, heartfelt issue to work with. When you're talking to corporates especially, what are the guidances that you give a corporate, if you feel that they need to have a rebrand themselves?
That's a great question. Firstly, the one thing is I would always give any organization about the understanding about emotional concerns. A rebrand can feel very unsettling, and you've got to come across with empathetic messaging and reassure and inspire with confidence in the new direction you're going in. And that's something for me is so important. It's about being true, it's about being honest, and again, being very, very clear on what you can do for other people and how you can help them. Because nowadays, and funny enough, interesting, I was very, very fortunate to be invited to an incredible talk yesterday addressed by David Sanger. And for those of our listeners who are not familiar with the name David Sanger, he is the chief Washington correspondent for the New York Times and a 3-time Pulitzer Prize winner. And over the last 40 years career he's had, he has gone around the world. He talks on national security. He's interviewed who's who in the zoo, governments, prime ministers, everyone. And he is so well read and so invested in where the world is right now. And I know you've asked me an interesting question there, Ian, and excuse me digressing, but what was fascinating now with Mr. Donald Trump coming in to power coming into power in January, if the world is thinking, or anyone here in the United States, for example, is thinking that it's going to go back to what it was, they've got another thing seriously coming their way. And nothing is going back to what it was when Trump was in power. The world has changed and progressed in the last 4 or 5 years since he hasn't been in power, all over the place. Now, this gets into cyber, this gets into the technology side of things, this gets into, where Putin is, what's going on with Ukraine, this is Iran, this is all these moving parts right now that people out there are not open to or aware of. A lot of people are not open to. Now, my point for sharing this is that we need to come together as organizations, and we've got to engage with the right voice. We've got to involve the stakeholders that are involved in any organization. And for the case of this conversation, the stakeholders are the British public that need to come and be involved. And we've got to collaborate with experts and include branding professionals, get people out there who understand the importance of branding at that sort of level and get that message very, very clear.
Excellent.
Wonderful. I think we want to see meaningful change and be able to track, true progress.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
absolutely. And I think bring the positivity into the news. What is possible? And if things are only possible when we all come together.
Yeah, I get it totally. Philip, sorry, we're short on time again today. So, and bless you for always your most pearls of wisdom. So, how can people get in contact with you?
www.thebritishschoolofexcellence.com, hello@thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. We've got our telephone number on our website. We have a WhatsApp number. We love engaging in conversation, and we love helping people build their confidence to move forward in their lives, whether it's in their relationships with their loved ones or in business, to elevate themselves to every level they can possibly dream of and think of.
Bless you, Philip, and thank you again, and have a warmer day in Florida, but it sounds like it's not so warm there either.
It's not so warm, it isn't. It's 6 degrees at the moment, so hopefully it'll get up to about 9.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, that was another great show, wasn't it, Helena? And lots of interesting things, again, to sort of talk about. And we're increasing, really, the values of the Royally Rich Lifestyle Show now by bringing in news as well to it. Can I, first of all, personally thank Helena Castrati from ALB UK TV for helping us put on the show, for Dr. Jacqueline Kirby from USA Global TV and Radio, and Philip Sykes from the British School of Excellence. So for me, Ian Pelham Turner.
And me, Helena Chard. See you next week.
Absolutely. Have a great week. Keep warm. I will. Lots of hot tea, I think, over the next couple of weeks. And we will see you again next week. Take tune. Bye for now.